السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Dear brothers and sisters, dear parents of Al-Hamra Integrated School, dear viewers, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Alhamdulillah, we are about to enter the last few days before Ramadan, and it is a tough time. It is a time of weakness, you can say, subhanAllah, because we have been stripped away from the masjid, we have been stripped away from our liberty pretty much. And of course this is a problem, but we have to have patience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to have patience with those things. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Those when a musibah touches them, a problem, a test, a trial, they say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. To Allah belong, and to Him we will return. So, having said that, Ramadan is coming, alhamdulillah, and we're going to have to make the best out of it. We're going to have to really do our best to make sure that we benefit from it. Now, I don't know, for myself, I feel quite low right now. And Ramadan is always a time of recharge. It's a time of getting back to it. It's a time of really, inshallah, injecting some iman into us, right? That's how it feels for me. And I look forward to it all the time, subhanAllah. I know the fasting stuff and the long days and whatnot, but now we're indoors. Now we are, we have no excuse. But I always look forward to it, because just before Ramadan, in the last few weeks, you feel quite weak. And you just can't wait. You just say, Ya Rab, just let me witness this Ramadan. And of course, we know the benefits of Ramadan. They are connected to fasting. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, Ya alladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. So siyam has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed for those before you, that you may achieve taqwa. Which is harder done than said. But there's something with fasting that humbles us, and I think our cognition becomes more sensitive, and we're able to understand things better. When you're hungry, you are able to understand the blessings that you might be missing. And that understanding helps us connect to the Quran, because we know the month of Ramadan is also شهر القرآن. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. For why? هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. It is a guidance for mankind. We should take the Quran as guidance. We need to be guided. We need to benefit from it. We need to make it as our life. Has to be our life. Has to be part and parcel of our life. Having said that, today's lecture, inshallah, because it is the month of the Quran, because the Quran is coming, we're going to focus on the miracles of the Quran. The Quran in and of itself is a miracle. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Quran in and of itself is a miracle. A lot of us, a lot of you, a lot of the people, the Muslims were born without, they're born into the Muslim faith with their families and in their cultures, Muslim cultures, and of course they respect the Quran, and they hold the Quran as a very, very respected book. When someone dies, they pull out the Quran and they recite it. When someone gets married, they read Al-Fatiha. When something happens, they pull the Quran down. So the Quran becomes a very respected book. It's used in certain events. However, it's not really the curriculum or the manhaj, the the, the guiding light that we should have in our life. It's not the constitution. That's the word I was looking for. It's not the constitution of our lives. And it should be. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. As opposed to any other constitutions, the Quran has no doubt in it. Constitutions are made by men. They can change, they have issues, reviews, people debate. However, when it comes to the Quran, we find that Allah says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. This is the book, there is no doubt in it. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is a guidance for those who have taqwa. And here we have a very, very serious qualification. It says that it's a guidance for those who have taqwa. Now, how many of us can claim that we have taqwa? It's not that easy, right? So it is a struggle for human beings to try to make sure that they achieve taqwa, or they resonate in that level to be able to achieve guidance from the Quran. A lot of people, that's why it becomes just a book to be read when people die, when people get married, and then they put it back on the shelf for the rest of the year. And the Prophet ﷺ complains in the Quran about this phenomenon. وَقَالَ رَسُولٌ, and the messenger says, يَا رَبِّي, oh my Lord, إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَحْجُورًا. Oh my Lord, indeed, my people, my qawm, have taken this Quran as something to be abandoned, to be left. إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَحْجُورًا. They left it as something to be abandoned. And what I mean abandoned is not just about like not reading it and keep it on the shelf, but also about not understanding it, not acting upon it, not believing in it. I've taken a survey recently. I'm doing some lectures, and a lot of people, they think the Quran is, it's a great book, it's really good, we use it, but is it really correct? Is it really the word of God? This is something very, very worrisome, that people might have this understanding. And the reason for this understanding is because people do not actually know the Quran. People do not actually know the Quran, guys. And I'm not talking about not memorizing. MashaAllah, we have millions of people who have memorized the Quran. But أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Do they not ponder the Quran? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Do they not ponder the Quran? Do they not think about the Quran? Do they not understand the Quran? Do they not try to believe and to act upon the Quran, to ponder it, to understand its injunctions, and to act upon it? This is basically what tadabbur can qualify as. And the reality is that we don't do that. We do not do that. We do not ponder over it, we do not think about it. We read it, we memorize it, and we use it for certain ritualistic events in our lives, and then that's it. So today I will speak a little bit about that, about the Quran. Now I know there's quite a lot when it comes to the miracles of the Quran, and specifically scientific miracles. And they've been popularized by certain du'at and people who preach Islam, alhamdulillah. And they always revolved around certain scientific miracles, which of course are debated within the scientific community sometimes, because first and foremost, the Quran is not a book of science. Now it contains science in it, but the Quran is not a book of science. Science is reviewed. Science is updated whenever you've studied. When I've studied science, at university level, basically they would have first year, and then you get second year, get a updated version of the book, second edition, third edition, fourth edition. When you read the introduction of these editions, you find that the authors will say something like new science or new research shows us right now that this and that, this is happening, and we have to update our information. And we are now in the new era of science, and we need to update. So there's always an update. For the Quran, there's never been an update. And you cannot. إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا ذِكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has revealed this dhikr, this reminder, and He says that it is upon Him to guard it. No one has changed the Quran. No one has been able to temper, to update it, even though a lot of people have called for it. A lot of Orientalists, a lot of governments, a lot of contemporary movements have called for an upgrade and update of the Quran. A lot of people have said something along the lines of it's time for reformation in Islam. And while that reformation to them, they think it's something positive, we view it, of course, as something negative. There's nothing wrong with moving forward in terms of life, in terms of all these things. There's nothing wrong with us progressing in our science, in our behavior, in our lives, and what we see, what we invent, what we deal with. But we do not compromise and change our faith. We do not compromise and change our aqidah, our fiqh, our life, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, because we fear the criticism of those who have changed themselves and who have left the fold of faith and have left God and have reinvented new philosophies that are changing, ever changing, every year, every month, every so many days even. People are changing. Things are always changing. And they say change is good. But change shows instability sometimes. When people go one step forward, 2 steps backwards, 2 steps forwards, 3 steps backwards, and so on, it shows that people are not really stable. You cannot just, okay, let's see what happens here. Oh, no, let's change again back. Let's see what happens here. No, let's, depending who comes in. So, Obama comes in and he makes all these changes, right? And huge changes, I'm talking about, like really, really big things. And then all the work, I'm just giving it as an example, all the work that he's put in was pretty much thrown out by Trump, was pretty much thrown out in the garbage by Trump. And this is a fact. This is a fact. And this is what modern day democracy has to offer. Okay, these kind of changes, these kind of behavior, right? This is what happens with a system that is other than Allah. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a frame of work when it comes to the Quran and the Sharia, and there are certain things that we can do things, we can move, we can innovate and invent and progress and so on. But when it comes to our core faith and our principles, our ethics, these are not changeable. They are not negotiable. And we have to try our best to make sure that we stick to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. And fear Allah as much as you can. You have to do your best, right? So we do our best. The Quran is a book of guidance. But it's not just because we believe so, it's because it actually challenges people. It has to prove itself. All prophets came with certain evidence to make sure that people understand that this is the correct way, that this is the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in a beautiful, and I love and I always urge those who listen, those who study, to really ponder, to take a few minutes and think when you're driving, when you're walking, before you're sleeping. Try to think about some of these things, connect them to your real life. Don't just leave it inside between the two covers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْأَفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. We will show them our signs in the horizons, meaning in nature, and in themselves, till there is no more doubt that this is the truth. Now, Muslims don't just say, yeah, the Quran is miraculous because we love it. No. Right? Sometimes when you talk to other faiths, if you ask them, like, prove me your faith, they'll be like, yeah, see this book, it says this. I used to talk to Christians a lot before, and you ask them like, okay, so what's the proof? And they'll try to tell you, yeah, because God so loved the world and he sent his only begotten son. And I say, that's a nice explanation. That's not an evidence. There's a difference between evidence and explanation. And people seem to mix the two. People can explain and give you a lot of talk about certain things, but there's a difference between that and evidence. Evidence is dalil, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَأْتُوا بُرْحَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Bring your proof, bring your evidence if you are truthful, if you are sadiqeen, if you are sadiq, if you are someone who speaks the truth. Bring your proof, bring your evidence. In the real world, we call for evidence. We go to court. If we have a dispute, whatever it might be, we call for evidence. We call for evidence. We call for evidence. So we need to make sure that we establish the evidence. We establish the evidence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we will show them our signs in the horizon in themselves. First and foremost, when you read the Quran, and I always ask non-Muslims and Muslims, I always ask them, guys, like, please just take some time and read the Quran. Take a little bit of time and read the Quran. Just read the book. We try to help you, and you should, to your neighbors, your friends. Give them copies of the Quran. Give them a link, whatever. Let them read the Quran. Let them read the Quran. I always advise people, read the Quran, read the Quran. When you read the Quran, you'll find that the Quran basically gets your attention to the universe around you. You find so many ayat, so many verses in the Quran that talks about nature, talks about those things around you. Why? Because these things are basic, it's just basic evidence that you can see with your own open eyes. With your own open eyes, you can see basic evidence such as the sun rising, the sun setting, the moon. And Allah points that out to us. Why, you might say? Because it's so obvious. It calls on the people to think. Us as educators and teachers, we try to get our children to be stimulated, to think. We don't want to just give them the answer, right? Because when you come to the conclusion yourself, and this is a great technique, I think it's one of the greatest evidence in the Quran, other than science and all these things, I believe that it is much, much more productive and stronger. And I'll tell you how. See, when you read the Quran, it tells you, have you not seen the rain, how it hits the ground and it resurrects the plants that are died. And those people of you who have seen the change in season, those of you who live in the desertous areas after rain, you will find how the earth comes back to life. And Allah links it to resurrection, for example. And you can see these phenomena with your eyes. If you look at the sun and the moon and their course, the Quran talks about them extensively. And when you read that and then you reflect and you connect and you say, oh my God, yeah, this is amazing, right? I mean, we do see the sun and the moon every day almost. Some of us have not seen it for a long time, which is so sad because people don't look for them. People like kind of just are okay with just looking into a screen and just not, being in nature anymore, right? Of course, now we cannot, but then we probably, really, really miss it. However, what I'm trying to say is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these natural phenomena in the Quran, which are observable with the eye, easily researchable, easily to be found out. And it promotes this thinking where you're like, what a second, how is this system so perfect? And how is it happening in such a way? And how is it in such a balance? أَلَّا تَتَغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ. Do not misjudge, do not mess up the balance. وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ. right? The mizan is so important, the balance of everything in this life. So the human being starts thinking, when they read the Quran, they say, wait a second, so everything in this universe has a balance, which means there's a design, which means it's perfectly aligned, and there's a designer. See, now you're coming to the realization yourself. This is a huge concept in education where the student reaches the conclusion, the teacher just kind of throws clues out there, clear enough for the student to follow a course of action and to reach this resurrection of the thought, of the process itself, where you have that moment of, wow, this is amazing, right? And that's when you're convinced. When someone tries to convince you, and hey, look at this, and look at that, and this person said this, and this person said that, you might believe him, you might not, it depends. But when you have been given certain clues, look here, look there, have you thought about this? Have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how many times He says, أَفَلَا يَتَذَكَّرُونَ أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ. You know, Allah is priming you. Do you not think about this? Think about that. Look at this. Analyze that. So Allah is basically instigating the process of you looking at the proof and evidence of the world that can be seen, that's tangible to an extent, that can be researched, something that's not a number in history or personality or something that only certain people have seen and people start debating whether it was there or not. That's why you never find in the Quran dates. You do not find in the Quran dates. Give me one date in the Quran that says 560 AD or something, or Hijri, or anything like that. You will never find a date in the Quran, because historians will always say, will debate. Even the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, which is not recorded in the Quran, is in the history, in the seerah. You will find that the scholars have come up with over 10 opinions. I cannot remember, maybe 20 opinions of the different year, the different month, the different day, and so on. Even people say 12 Rabiul Awwal. If you actually do a historical research and a scholarly research, you'll find that there's so many opinions about the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. And that is why in the Quran you'll never find a date. People will debate dates, but people will not debate what they can see. People will never debate that right now it's morning here, or afternoon. People will not debate when they see the sun and the moon, the stars, when they see the seas and the waves and the lights, and they see the earth sprouting forth its grass and its vegetables and the fruits and the bees and honey and the mountains and the sky and the clouds. People cannot debate that. They're not gonna be, oh, is that a cloud? No, I don't think it's a cloud. Or is that the sun? No, it looks like, like it's just a star. I mean, it's not like that. And that is why most of the evidences, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't waste His time with certain, type of futile evidence that people try to always, bring about, because people debate those. People start making fun of us. People start, no, but now science says this. Some of the Muslim preachers have started talking about the miracles of the Quran from a scientific perspective and start injecting certain scientific knowledge into the Quran, trying to interpret some of the verses in such a way, and then scientists have refuted that extensively and have said, what are you talking about? And look what new research shows. Because when you make the science as the basis, the foundation of what you're trying to do, then that changes. It's a flimsy foundation. It's very unsteady. It's unstable. So every time new research will come forward, things will have to change. You're going to have to change your opinion, and you have to retract, and so on and so forth. And that's not good. The Quran does not use this type of approach. Everyone can see, everyone can analyze, everyone can check. And Allah actually challenges you. Allah challenges you to check, to think, to investigate, to look at the sign and the evidence. But very important to connect spiritually and physically with the world around you. And that is something that we forget about, and that is something that we're dealing right now during this period of time when we're locked down, and we cannot. People, even when they have the chance, they don't do it. They choose to be in a very artificial world. They barely leave their houses. They never have connection to the real world. And how do you expect them to believe in God? And how do you expect them to have a spiritual enlightening and to really connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to His ayat, to His verses? It's almost impossible. That's why the greatest threat to the ummah right now is not other religions. It is atheism. People are just not believing God anymore because, this has become their God right now. They're always with this. And they trust apps and screens and computers more than they trust themselves and people and the connection, the spiritual connection. Before, when the farmers, when they worked with their hands, peasants, people were doing trading, they were living day by day. Communication was meaningful, travel was meaningful, things were meaningful. I'm not saying we shouldn't advance, but people had a connection with the world around them. And that is why for them, when they would hear the Quran, even such people like Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, and people who were big sworn enemies to Islam, they knew Islam was the truth when they heard the Quran. They would sneak up at night and listen to the Quran. But because of their arrogance and because of certain other issues, they could not, political issues, they could not admit it in public. They could not. So they had to swear that they'll never return back to it, that they'll fight. And even though Abu Sufyan became Muslim later on. Right? But what I'm trying to say, guys, again, in summary of this issue, Allah has made the signs of the universe clear to us. All we have to do is look. All we have to do is open up. All we have to do is just look around, open up our eyes. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. Indeed, in the alteration, in the creation of heavens and the earth, in the alteration of day and night, there is a sign. There are signs for those who reflect, those who ponder. لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. Look here, people of knowledge, people are thinking, then they ponder, they think, they look at the creation of the heavens and the earth, they look at the star, they observe. This is what these type of ayat, these type of verses of the Quran pushed the Muslim scientists of old to investigate, to look at the heavens and the earth, the stars, because they felt, they saw in this an opportunity to develop their iman, to increase their iman. Their Lord is calling them and telling them, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ. Ayah is used for a verse of the Quran. So they understood that in these things there are also Quranic evidences. When you look at these creations, you will know the Creator. Without a doubt, if I look at this phone and I analyze it, I'll get information about where and how and who made it and how is it done and the genius behind it. Hence, when we look at the world around us, take a few minutes, analyze the grass that you step on, the trees that you pass under, the bees that fly around you and the bugs that sometimes you just squish them. Analyze the ant. Why do you think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made Suratul Naml and Suratul Nahl, a whole surah named by the ant and a whole surah named by the bee? It's not just some fairy tale. There's a reason, so we can know Him, so we can know her. وَأَوْحَى, and Allah has inspired إِلَى نَحْلِ, to the bee. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is focusing your attention to the creation so you may know the Creator. These are real ayat. Who can debate? Who can debate with these things? Analyze the Quran. You will not find debatable things in the Quran. The Quran is very clear-cut. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. There is no doubt about it. وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ. The same word is used. وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ. الرَّيْب, like ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ. And if you are in doubt, this is a book there is no doubt, and later on, and if you are in doubt, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ. فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. Bring a surah like it. Okay, you think it's not from God. You think God is the creator who's pointing to you, nature, and all the evidence in nature. You think he's not the one who has dictated this Quran, who has revealed this Quran. Okay, you can do it as well. Because then if it's not the creator, it's a creation. And you are a creation, you're a human being, so you can do it as well. So bring something like the Quran. But فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا فَاتَّقُوا النَّارِ. And if you cannot do it, and you will not do it, Allah already refutes it categorically, and no one has been able to do it, then fear the fire. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ وَعِدَّةِ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Of which fuel is men and stones. Prepare for the disbelievers. Very clearly. It's simple. If you analyze the Quran, if you go beyond just reading it, if you go beyond just flipping pages and memorizing and just reciting and making competitions in beautiful voices and making weird movements, I'm so sorry. If we can go beyond that, then I believe ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. هذا بلاغ للناس. It's a communication that requires action, that requires proof and evidence. Right? I believe these things are more powerful than some of the ideas that we've seen around in books and in videos about certain scientific miracles of the Quran. I believe the Quran itself, the whole of it is miraculous. I believe the Quran, the whole of it is miraculous. And you have to have that personal experience, that personal connection with the Quran to be able to understand it. No one's going to do it for you. You have to take it, be it on your phone, be it on your computer, be it in a mushaf. Even though one of my friends always says, don't use the phone to communicate with Allah. Don't use the phone to connect to Allah. Just stick to the book. I agree, but sometimes it's hard to carry a Quran with you, going to the bathroom, working, going places. There's great application called Nakhtim. Nakhtim or Nakhtem. You can find an app store on both Android and iOS, and it's great because it doesn't allow you to open your phone until you read an ayah of the Quran. Something where we can connect with reading a little bit each day, a little bit, even if you recite it. Sometimes I don't have a mushaf or the phone, I'll recite it in my mind. Okay, I'll recite it. And it should not be a day without you uttering some Quran. Of course, in your salah, 5 times a day you will do it. But there shouldn't be a day that goes by without you reading some Quran, reciting some Quran. Iqra, right? Because it's also recitation. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So build this relationship with Quran. That's when you're going to find the true miracle of the Quran. I can lecture about the different scientific aspects of it, the mountains, the specs, the different clouds and the different ways of clouds and how rain comes and hail. I can talk about the embryological miracles. I can talk about the rain, the water cycle, the life cycle. There are so many things that I can talk about, the sun and the moon and the orbits. However, a lot of these things people will start debating from a scientific perspective. The shape of the earth, the atom, you name it. But when you read the Quran and you look around in the world and you look at yourself, you as a human being, how Allah has created you, you go back to the ayat. سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْأَفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. We will show them our evidence, our ayat, our verses. In the horizon, around them, everywhere, in nature and in themselves. And it will be clear without any doubt that this is the truth. So look. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Do they not see? Do they not think? Do they not ponder? Do they not open their eyes? Do they not think? سُمٌّ بُكْمٌ أُمْيٌ فَهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. Deaf, dumb, blind, they will not return. And it's not physical death, being deaf. It's not physical blindness. It's not physical dumbness. It's spiritual, when you do not see things. And how many ayat do we pass by every day and we do not see them? We do not connect to them. This is one of the greatest aspects for anyone who's in education, who understands. A person will never learn until they make a text to self connection and a text to world connection. Ask any teacher, any expert in education. It's called text to self, text to world, or self to world. Meaning, whatever you read, you connect to you, to your life. And then whatever you read and yourself, how you understood it, you connect it to the real world around you. Or you connect the text itself to the evidence in the universe. This is what the Quran is asking us to do. And I want to finish by saying, when I became Muslim, 16, 17 almost years ago, I remember, I think that was probably the highest peak of my iman, because I didn't know a lot, but I was discovering so much and reading the Quran so much with translation. And I advise people, I know that Ramadan is coming, I advise people to read with understanding. Read with understanding. Read with understanding. Please. I know it's good to read. Imam Shafi used to read it, 10, 20 times in Ramadan, the Quran, but he understood. When he read, he understood. He was tafsir in himself. For us, we need to understand. Allah will bless us, inshallah. Allah will give us the barakah, but understanding is very important. So, I used to read the Quran with understanding, and subhanAllah, I felt like it was reading me. I felt the connection to my life, the questions that were in my mind. I would open the Quran and the Quran would answer them for me, wallahi. I would feel like literally I'm living in that time, like this Quran has been written for me personally, subhanAllah. This is what I felt personally. And it was one of the best feelings in the world, where you feel like the Quran knows you. The Quran, the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is meant for you. It's communicating to you. It's like it matches what you're going through in your life. And I think a lot of you might have experienced this in your life, and it's one of the best feelings when you connect to the Quran. Barakallahu fikum. If there are any questions, inshallah, but I leave you with this. Read the Quran with understanding in Ramadan. Read a tafsir. Maybe, let's say in the morning, you read just the ayat in Arabic for the barakah, because each ayah, each letter, there's, 10, 7, 10, to even more rewards. But read a tafsir. Read a tafsir that really explains things in general. And try to connect to it. Something in your language, something that you understand. Ask more. Go to the scholars. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. Ask more. Seek more to understand. What does it mean? When was it revealed? What's the context? I always remind people to know the context of things so you can understand it better. So try your best. This is my advice, personal advice, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. If there's any questions, please ask them now, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Any self-discipline tips? People need to fix their sleeping patterns. People need to fix their sleeping patterns, inshallah. Sleeping patterns are very important, inshallah. Once you fix your sleeping patterns, then things are okay, alhamdulillah. But if you're not fixing your sleeping patterns and you don't connect your life around the salah, around your prayer, then you don't have a proper pattern, a proper discipline. Stick, even if you're inside right now, stick to the prayer times. Stick to putting your work around the prayer times, around don't sleep too much. Try to do certain things. Sleep is something that sometimes destroys us. Rest, yes, you should get good rest, but don't make it too much. And find things, reinvent yourself. It's a time for you to think of how you can do other things, how you can move around, how you can work harder. So try your best, inshallah. Okay, any other question, inshallah? Any questions, inshallah? Can we pray Qiyam in Jama'ah during Ramadan with our family? Yes, inshallah, we can pray Qiyam in Jama'ah during Ramadan, inshallah. It is a sunnah, but we can pray, no problem. It's very good, and especially in this time where we're locked down, to replace Taraweeh. And again, Taraweeh is a sunnah, but we should, inshallah. I have a 1-year-old baby. Usually I can only read Quran while he's sleeping. Can I know instead of reading? Can I make a dhikr? Thank you. Yes. You can make dhikr, inshallah. And when he's sleeping, the baby, you can read Quran. And if you memorize, you can actually recite to yourself. Because you memorize certain, Qul Allah Ahad, Qul A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq, Qul A'udhu bi Rabbin Nas. You can memorize, right? You memorize these. So you can recite these in, as reading Quran. You know what I mean? So it's fine. And make dhikr. Afdal dhikri la ilaha illallah. The best dhikr you can make is la ilaha illallah. And the Quran itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it dhikr. So the Quran itself is dhikr. Can I give gifts to non-Muslims? I mean, like miswak? Yes, you can, inshallah. As a woman, when I'm free for salah, can we take wudu every time? Yes, you can take wudu, inshallah, for salah, because it's good to have wudu, but it's a sunnah to renew it if you haven't lost it. What is the best time to memorize share? The best time, inshallah, is in the morning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. That the Quran at Fajr, it is witnessed by the angels. The Prophet also said, بُرِكَ لِأُمَّتِ فِي بُخُورِهَا, that it's been blessed for my ummah, the time of the morning, in the early hours. So this is the time of barakah, is the time for, inshallah, memorization. Is it necessary to cover her head while performing wudu? No, you don't have to cover your head while you're performing wudu, unless you're outside somewhere, in outside, like men can see. But no, you don't have to cover your hair when you make wudu. You're supposed to wipe over your hair. Now, okay, any other questions, inshallah? Okay, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah bless all of you. And please share this video to as many people as possible. Again, we were discussing the issue of Quran, the miracle of the Quran, the issue of the miracle of the Quran. We need to cover our head during reading Quran and also during menses. Can we read Quran, hold Quran? Okay, covering the hair while it's not salah, it's there's some difference on that, but there's no real evidence. I'm gonna look at it again, but if you're not praying, it's not about, you don't have to cover your hair when you read Quran or when the adhan comes. Some women start covering their hair and stuff like that because the adhan comes. This is an issue for going outside, for salah, and so on. Okay. As for touching the Quran during the menses, it is not advisable, no. It's better to use a phone or a screen like a computer, and if you're memorizing Quran and so on. This is better, inshallah. Just hold the phone, don't hold the mushaf. Okay, so do not touch the Quran while on menses, but you can read it from the phone or from TV. There's so many applications. There is there is a screens and so on. Okay, and even on that, some scholars say that's not good. Allah alam, especially if you're memorizing the Quran in the 6-7 days that you're on your menses, you can forget. So if you're in an intensive memorization course, the scholars advise to keep going, but don't touch the Musaf. Okay, don't touch the Musaf. This is agreed. What should I do when I'm free of Salah? When you're free from Salah, you make dhikr, you do good deeds, you make dua. Okay, you make dua, a lot of dua, and alhamdulillah, and do good deeds as much as you can. But dhikr, la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma ismihi shay'un fil ard wa la fis sama wa sami'un alim. All kinds of dhikr that we know, inshallah, and it's good, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Hayyakum Allah. Okay, barakallah fikum. May Allah bless all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in, especially the parents of Al-Hamra Integrated School. May Allah bless you all. Inshallah, please share this video with everyone. We all need to connect with the Quran. Do download this application. Okay, it's on the App Store, inshallah. On the App Store, it's very good, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum, jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.